There's a ton of interesting features coming in C#9, but it's not possible to play with a lot of them yet, unless we look at how they're implemented in other languages. Let's mash on that. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. In today's episode, we're going to have a little bit of a play with one of the things that I'm really excited about for C#9, which is record types. So this was going to be a thing in C#8, but it did not make the cut. And I think it will make the cut for C#9, but it's still not completely there. It turns out it's actually really hard to build a language for writing computer programs. So a lot of the things that I'm like, just put record types in. Fortunately, there are people who are much smarter than me thinking very deeply about the implications of that. And they kind of slowed down the process. But record types have existed for a donkey's age inside of F#. So I thought I would play with them a little bit in F# and give people an idea of what they could come to expect in the future in C#. So I guess I should start with what is a record type, and to think about that, you should think about what sort of types do we define inside of a C# project. There's all sorts of different things you're going to build, services and UI components and things like that. But one of the big things that you end up spending a lot of time, a lot of keyboard cycles, I guess, building that doesn't add a huge amount of value are these data transport objects. So things that you're going to persist to the database, pull back from the database, if you're doing view models, those sorts of things. And it's a lot of type something and then do a curly brace and do a get semicolon, a set semicolon, a curly brace. Or if you're using CodeRush, using one of the shortcuts there, I'm sure ReSharper has equivalent shortcuts for rapidly building those sorts of things. So they're all pretty basic, and you don't add a lot of functionality into it. And one of the things you end up doing is trying to figure out equality between these things, what constitutes equality between these objects, and you end up writing these painfully long functions, or having ReSharper generate these painfully long functions that check all the members inside of a function inside of an object for equality, and heaven help you if you have a nested type in there. So record types are designed to make that a little bit simpler. If you think about this from a DTD perspective, these are kind of value types. They don't necessarily have IDs to them. They're just things that get quickly built and replaced, and they don't have a long life cycle to them. So I'm going to create a new record type here inside of this F# project. I'm going to make things a little bit bigger because I know that people complain about that, justifiably so. So I'm going to create a type here called a book because I'm super creative. And what do books have? They have authors, which is probably going to be a string. I'm going to have a publication date on this. Date, which is going to be a date time, and maybe I'll have a number of pages, which is probably going to be an integer. So that's it. That is enough to define a record type. So this is sort of the C# equivalent of oh goodness, it would be long. I don't know why I'm using this comment style. It's the wrong one. But it would be public class book. And then inside of that, you'd have a public author, string author, get, set, and so on and so forth. And it would go on for ages. Well, it would go on for 3 more lines, which is, I suppose, not ages, but that's enough to build this type here. So if we want to create an instance of this, it's pretty simple. So I can just do let, and I'm going to look at my own bookcase here and see what I've got. I have a C# in depth book here. C# in depth. This is going to be a new book. So to use it, we just do like this. Author is John Speed. publication date, I don't know. It's been at least 3 editions, so let's say date, time. I bet you it was published in 2009. And weirdly, it was published on January 1st. And then pages. It looks pretty thick. It's probably like 20 pages in there, 22 pages maybe. So that's it. That's all we need to do now to declare an instance of this type. So again, pretty simple. The type inference engine in C# is nice enough to know exactly what type this is without worrying about declaring it or anything like that. So that's all we need to do to declare one of these. So let's go and create another one. I'm going to copy this one, save people from watching me struggle with typing again. So I've got a second one of these, and it's got exactly the same values in it as the first one. So this lets us show what structural equality is going to look like. So I'll just put an if statement in here. And we'll just do it like this. So we're saying if C# in depth is equal to C# in depth 2, then we're going to print equal here. So typically in something like a C# class, this would not be true because this comparison here would be a comparison of the object pointer as opposed to a deep equality. But if we go and run this, sorry, this one's still really small. I don't actually know how to make this bigger. That kind of makes it bigger, but not in the way that I want it to. No, it's just like really wide. Anyway, that's equal. So what this has done is it's taken a look at the actual properties inside of this object. And if we change it to something that's not equal, then we're not going to get that printed out. So it's actually comparing. See the lack of equal there. I know it's really exciting to see nothing. So it's actually delving deep into the object and comparing each individual property on it. And then another really nice thing about records is that they play really nicely with immutability. So if we wanted to create a slightly different version of this, we could just do let C# depth 3 equal C# depth 2 with, and then here we can just change something on it. So like pages equals 22. And that's all that's necessary to create a new object based on this last one with just a slight variation. So that's really nice because it leaves these references unchanged, but it still allows us to make really quick copies of the existing one and move forward with that being immutable. So I think that's probably most of what I wanted to talk about around this. I'm pretty excited that this is coming to C#, maybe.
What's the proposed syntax for C#?
I have no idea.
Pretty similar? Not sure.
Probably not. I mean, we could go look it up, I guess, right? Like, that sounds like the sort of thing that we would do in the middle of a video. C#9 records. So I don't know.
We also had a record type, but I think this is different.
Yeah, I don't know if they've settled on it previously, so...
Interesting. Data class.
Public data class.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of okay-ish. It's still really syntax heavy, though. Like,
it is a little.
You really don't need public on it. Properties should be kind of public implicitly in my mind. And then, I don't know what this init thing does. Init only properties are great if you want to make individual properties immutable. Okay. Oh, I see.
It's
so
almost like that could be the default.
Yeah. So they have with statements too, which are kind of similar. It's just this stuff is sort of like inside the curly braces inside of F#. It's got value-based equality. So, I mean, it looks pretty good. It's never going to be, I don't think, as terse as F#. I mean, F# was really designed from the get-go to have this functionality, so it's probably not going to be quite as clean.
It'd be really useful though.
Yeah.
I'm working on a project right now where I have a date range object, and this would be a perfect use case for that, I think, because we want them to be immutable, really, the date ranges, and we want to do the equality, and we have to write, all the equality stuff kind of manually. Whereas it could just be, yeah, exactly.
Let's keep it simple. Start. Time. Spell that properly, of course. And also date time. Oh, and would be a keyword. And the date it is.
Cool.
Yeah. Alright, well that's pretty much it. So go forth and I guess don't have fun with record types yet because you can't. But at some point in the future. Yeah, at some point. I couldn't find a way to like run C# 9 locally yet. I don't think it's available in any form yet in like a runnable way. But
I think
probably
maybe if you install .NET 5, but
yeah, I don't know if even then it works. I don't think that it's quite at that point yet. But if I'm wrong, please feel free to comment down below. But my very quick Google search did not find anything. Alright, well, thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the ASP.NET Monsters. Remember to like, comment, and share, and we'll see everybody next time. All right.